Good afternoon. I'd like to call the Finance, Ways and Means Committee to order for March 21st, 2023. We do not want to do March 1st over again. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Representatives Barrett, Boyd, Campbell, Camper, Cochran, Crawford, Faison, Freeman, Gant, Garrett, Hawk, Hicks, Kiesling, Lamberth, Love, Lynn, McKenzie, Miller, Moon, Parkinson, Shaw, Sparks, Whitson, Williams, Zachary, Vice Chairman Baum, Chair Lady Hazelwood. Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Do we have any personal orders or announcements today? Chairman Hicks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I know I've got some folks in the audience. I see George Brewer back there and a couple other folks from over in Claiborne County, but they're from the nursing home. So if they would please stand and let us recognize them.
Other members with personal orders? Chairman Hawk.
Thank you, Chair Lady. We've got folks with our NetTrans, our public transportation from Northeast Tennessee. Candace Long and Mr. Robinson are in the crowd. Just Candace? There you go. Welcome, guys. Glad to have you all here. Thank you.
I see no other hands. So today we have 18 bills on our calendar. We also have 5 expansion request hearings. We're in respect of the members' time who have other committee obligations. We're going to take our bills first, and then we'll do the expansion hearings. So with that, item 1 on their calendar is by Speaker Pro Tem Marsh. House Bill 160. Speaker Marsh, you have a motion and a second. You're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This bill puts more people to work in an industry that really needs workers. This bill is proposed by the Hospitality Tennessee Association that represents liquor by the drink licensees such as hotels, restaurants, and private clubs. The current statute bars persons with certain felony convictions from getting a server's permit to work as a service, bartender, or assistant manager for 8 years. This bill modernizes the statute to allow some of the persons previously barred from getting a permit to change shortening of periods from 8 years to 4 years under certain restrictions. With that, I'll answer any questions.
You've heard the sponsor's explanation. You have any questions? Seeing none, I'd just like to commend you for bringing this legislation, Speaker Marsh. I think all of us who go into restaurants and we see empty tables, but we can't be seated. There's a real issue with having enough servers everywhere across the state. And I think 8 years is a pretty long penalty for making a mistake. So I really commend you, and hopefully that'll help us all as we attempt to entertain and be entertained. So I appreciate that. Without any questions or objections, we are voting on House Bill 160. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. House Bill 160 moves on to calendar and rules. Thank you, Speaker Marsh. Deputy Speaker Johnson, you're recognized on House Bill 130. We have a motion. We have a second. Deputy Speaker, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have an amendment.
The drafting code,
5554.
that's what we have, drafting code 5554. We have a motion and a second on the amendment. All in favor of amendment 05554, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment is attached. So Speaker Johnson, please
Thank you,
describe
Madam
your
Chair.
bill as amended.
Thank you, Madam Chair. House Bill 130 came to me from the Comptroller of the Treasury, and it deals with the Assessment Appeals Commission. This commission was established about 40 years ago. When it was established, they were very active and involved, but unfortunately, they're not as active as they used to be. So what this bill does, Madam Chair, is it would remove the Assessment Appeals Commission.
You've heard the sponsor's explanation. Are there questions? So we're streamlining government.
Streamlining government. You're exactly right, Madam Chair.
With that, with no objection, we're voting on House Bill 130. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. House Bill 130 goes on to calendar
Thank you, Madam
rules.
Chair and committee.
Thank you. Item 3 on our calendar, House Bill 879 by Chairman Carr. We have a motion. We have a second. Chairman Carr, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. This bill here is for the low-income housing tax credits. When people have those tax credits, they build these houses, they have to buy regular insurance and for to cover those. And we would like to set up a program just as the Tennessee Housing Authorities has already set up the Tennessee Housing Authority Risk Management Trust Fund. And this will just allow them to set up their own insurance in their own pool, therefore costing them a lot less, costing less to build the affordable housing. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Are there questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, without objection, we're voting on House Bill 879. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Chairman Carr, you're off to calendar and rules.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. And
Item number 4 on our calendar is House Bill 903, Chairman Grills. We have a motion, the second. Chairman Grills, you're recognized on House Bill 903.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Under existing law, if a municipality determines a property owner has allowed overgrowth of vegetation or the accumulation of debris, trash, litter, or garbage which endangers the health, safety, or welfare of other citizens, the municipality may provide notice to the owner to remedy the condition immediately. Should the owner fail to remedy the condition within 10 days, the municipality may remedy themselves with reasonable associated costs being billed to the property owner. Should the owner refuse to pay the cost, the municipality may take one of two actions. The court go to court to recover the cost or file a lien on the property. And this bill simply adds a third remedy, which would be adding the cost to the annual property tax notice.
All right, you've heard the sponsor's explanation. Sponsor, does this apply for county as well as municipal? So I know, so this is just for municipal government.
That's
So if the county is doing a cleanup, then this does not apply there.
That is correct, ma'am.
All right, thank you. Seeing no questions? I'm sorry. Chairman Crawford, you're recognized.
Thank you. I just need clarification, get it on the record. If a county or city already has this in place that they do this, this will not affect it, right, and override it or anything.
This specifically, let me make sure, go back to it's Title 6, Chapter 33, Title 6, Chapter 54, where it deals with those under that charter. I think it's 350 cities that it actually affects.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any further questions? Representative Freeman,
Thank you, Madam Chair. How are the cost of the improvements calculated?
Chairman Grills.
Madam Chair, that is already, they already do that now with the way they recover the cost as far as with the lien or with the court cost or going to court to recoup those dollars. This has nothing to do with how those dollars are accumulated. This strictly adds another way for those dollars to be recuperated.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Parkinson. Further questions? Seeing none, we are voting on House Bill 879, moving on to calendar and rules. I'm sorry, House Bill 903, got off track here. By Chairman Grills, we're voting on House Bill 903. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Chairman Grills. Chairman Howell, item number 5 on our calendar is House Bill 321. We have a motion and a second. We have a motion and a second on the bill, but Chairman Howell, we also have an amendment.
Madam Chair, if I may, could we possibly roll this one space out of respect for Commissioner Ely? He's walking on over from his office. He'd like to be here, if we may.
We can do that. All right, rolled one space, and
Thank
we
you.
will take up item number 6, which is House Bill 722 by Chairman Halsey. He almost missed his opportunity. Chairman Halsey, you have a motion and a second. You're recognized.
Thank you, Chair Lady, and thank you, committee. House Bill 722 moves voluntary manslaughter from a Class C felony to a Class B felony. A lot of times when you have somebody charged with first degree or second degree murder, a lot of times the jury will reduce it to voluntary manslaughter, not understanding that voluntary manslaughter is a Class C felony, which gets 3 to 6 years. And then the family, of course, is horrified when they find out you got 3 to 6 years for killing somebody. It's interesting. If I point a gun at you, but I don't shoot you, that's a Class C felony. If I'm provoked and I shoot you and kill you and I get charged with voluntary manslaughter, that's also a Class C felony. So this bill just moves Class C voluntary manslaughter to a Class B felony.
All right, are there questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, we're voting on House Bill 722. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. House Bill 722 goes to calendar and rules.
Thank you, Chair Lady. Thank you, committee.
We are back on item 5. Since the deputy governor / commissioner just walked in the room, he is in the building.
Yes.
Chairman Howell, we have a motion and a second. All right, we have a motion and a second on the bill. Do we need to put the amendment on before describing the bill, or is it does
Amendment
rewrite
makes
the bill?
ma'am.
Yes. So the drafting code for the amendment is 5545. Do you have a motion on the amendment? Motion and a second on the amendment. Without objection, we're voting on the amendment. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Amendment 005545 is now attached to the bill. And Chairman Howell, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The bill before you, committee, is the administration's Transportation Modernization Act. At its core, it is a road funding bill, but it does several things. And rather than read the entire bill, which will take about 30 minutes, I will just give you the brief highlights and then defer to your questions. As I said, it's a road funding bill, and it does give TDOTs the ability to use different methods to build a project, while giving TDOT also the authority to examine the possibility to enter into public-private partnerships that would address some of the most congested areas in the state of Tennessee, primarily in our urban areas. This could be addressed by the use of what's called choice lanes, and you'll find that in the bill on pages 16 through 23. The bill also expands TDOT's ability to use alternative bills in projects. It goes from 5 to 28. That's about a 550% increase in the number of alternative bills they can use in a annual basis. Alternative bills can include construction manager, general contractor bills, design bill, progressive design bill, which are traditionally used on projects such as I-440. Some of you remember that. When it was built in Nashville, that was an alternative bill, required a high level of technical complexity and risk management. That's where those alternative bills are normally used. TDOT will continue to use the traditional bills because not all projects require an alternative bill. And a traditional bill has served us very well through the years. The bill creates a $3 billion transportation modernization fund within the state treasury. That's in section 15 of the bill. And that fund is separate from TDOT's regular budget. In addition, the bill allocates $300 million to the already existing state aid fund for county road departments. But the bill also makes it clear that those funds are to be used at the county level for infrastructure only, roads, bridges, that type of thing. The funds cannot be diverted by the local governing body for use for any other local project. And what this $300 million amounts to is 15 years of one lump sum payment, 15 years of payment into the state aid fund, and it will impact all 95 counties. And I have, if you're interested, after the committee or come by my office, I have a printout that will show exactly what each county will receive from this state aid fund. The bill seeks to reduce the average bill time for a major TDOT project from 15 years to 5 years. I think we can all support that. The bill addresses serious congestion concerns in the 4 major urban areas through P3 projects. And there are P3 projects that are approved for use in 30 states that we know of. Some of them close to us would be Texas, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina. And it also addresses the need for more funding through the Transportation Modernization Fund, which is over and above TDOT's normal budget that is generated through the gas tax. That annual budget is about $1.2 billion for maintenance and new construction. The bill also addresses the need to capture revenue from the growing number of electric vehicles in the state of Tennessee, which use our roads but don't buy gas. So they're not paying for the use of our roads. It sets a registration fee that is graduated in over 3 years, and it tops out at $274 in the 4th year, which is, according to the UT research, is parity with what the average person pays in gas tax who drives a combustion engine. By the way, that research was done by the University of Tennessee. That registration fee is divided in the same manner that the gas tax is divided with between local and state government. The hybrid vehicle registration fee will be set at $100 and will also start indexing along with the EV fees in the 4th year. And this is a generational shift in the way we are funding our roads in Tennessee, building our infrastructure. And in all the research that I have done, and others agree with me, this is a good plan. And I think the only other plan is to double our gas tax from 26 to 50 cents a gallon. And I don't think there's any heart to do that. So I think this is a good plan. And the reason I say that, it's endorsed by the Tennessee Public Transportation Association, who has joined us today in the hearing room. The Nashville Metro MPO has overwhelmingly endorsed this plan. Tennessee County Mayors Association has endorsed it, and the County Road Superintendents Association also. With that, Madam Chair, I stand to take any questions.
All right, you've heard the sponsor's explanation of the bill, and I know most, if not all of us, have heard a lot about this bill in previous settings, but we want to make sure that we have all the questions answered that we need to have answered here today. And Leader Lambert, I believe you're the first questioner.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And I just wanted to thank Chairman Howell for carrying this bill. It is a generational change type bill. I mean, the amount of work that you put in behind the scenes on this over the last several months to not only focus on different ways to build roads and actually deliver that to the people of Tennessee in a quicker fashion, but just to use surplus dollars to focus on true hard infrastructure. Everything about this bill that works together is going to make sure that Tennessee's tomorrows are certainly brighter than our yesterdays and today. And so, Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to say thank you for carrying the bill. You have put in just an enormous amount of work, and just wanted to publicly say thanks.
Thank you.
I think that deserves an attaboy from the rest of this committee. So,
Madam Chair, if I may.
certainly.
It is truly a team effort. I have to give credit to the Department of Transportation, their team, Commissioner Ely and his team, Transportation Committee that I chair. It's been overwhelming support for this, and I think they've done a good job of grasping what we're trying to do here to change the direction of how we fund our infrastructure in Tennessee. So it's a team effort. I'm glad to be a part of it.
Representative Miller, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I'm reading the correct amendment, 54-2-201, that's where each of the 4 regions will receive $750 million. And
Yes.
this comes as a funded mandate. And then the $300 million, is it the $750 million dollars that comes with restrictions, or is it the $300 billion that comes with the restrictions?
Well, in essence, they both, sorry.
Chairman Howell.
In essence, they both do. The bill spells out that the 300 million going to the counties can only be used for infrastructure. But the 3 billion, it spells out, if I can find it right here, I believe it's on page 11. It says the fund may be used for the following purposes: to fund strategic transportation initiatives, including but not limited to congestion mitigation, which is what we're really trying to do, make our roads safer in Nashville, Knoxville, Memphis, those areas. Rural interstate widening, which is in desperate need, and the accelerated delivery of strategic transportation improvements over and above the Transportation Improvement Program, generally supported by the State Highway Fund. So they're both, in a sense, they're both restricted on what they can use.
Representative Miller.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. And under the $300 million will be sort of like grants. Will each county have to apply for these grants, or will they receive them automatically?
Chairman Howell.
To clarify, you're talking about the 300 million?
Yes.
Yes, this is a part of the existing state aid fund, which every county applies for and has for a number of years. And traditionally, I think the state funds that at the rate of about $21 million a year, which by the time it gets down to my county, Polk County or Meigs County, they might get $500,000 a year out of that. We're talking about 15 years of funding in one lump sum going to the county road departments. They can pave a lot of roads in your county with that kind of money. I think the average, I asked one superintendent what the average cost per mile in a county road. He said it's around $75,000. So we're talking about anywhere from 2.5, 2.8 to as high as 14 million in Memphis. You can pave a lot of county roads with that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Madam Chair Lady.
Thank you, Adair. Representative McKenzie.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And to the sponsor, I was hearing you talk about the new fee tax, whatever, on the e-vehicles, which I do agree. $100 is definitely not enough for a fully electrical vehicle operating on the roads. And I also agree that, you know, that if it's $274, what the gas or diesel tax is, I agree that the e-vehicle should pay their fair share. I guess my question is, why not, since we're doing this wholesale change here, because that $274 will be indexed to inflation like the $100 for the hybrid, why not index the diesel and gas fees similarly? That way we're growing the pot and we're making sure that our roads are being cared for with inflation.
Chairman Howell.
Well, I don't disagree with you, Representative, but if you recall, in 2017, we tried that. And had we indexed in that bill, it wouldn't have passed. So this is what was agreed to, and it's written in such a way that it doesn't encumber a future legislature from indexing the gas tax. That might come at some point in the future, but there was no stomach for that in 2017.
Representative McKenzie.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, I wasn't here in 2017, and I'm sensing that this would be a great opportunity. We're gonna swing for the fence. I say let's go ahead. You know, honestly, and I definitely understand the rationale. Disagree with it a bit because I really think now is the time. Now is the time for us to, you know, this nickel and diamond and back and forth. I don't know what the General Assembly's posture is on it. But, you know, at the end of the day, these are some significant funds that we're expending because of our stewardship, because of our surplus. And as the leader said earlier, but it's also a time for us to really make some tough decisions that's going to benefit generationally. And I do think just tying that index like you all wisely did with the e-vehicles and the hybrid vehicles, now will be a great time to do that. But thank you for bringing the bill.
Chairman Howell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I like your passion, Representative McKenzie. I agree with your passion. And I think that there may come a point, I may not be here when that happens, but there may come a point in time when the legislature may look at that, because we are existing now under a revenue stream that is not sustainable because of the growth in electric vehicles, the growth of our population, the demand for our roads, and various other things that are happening with the gas tax. We're seeing that right now, compared to last year, we are $4 million lower than we were this time last year. So there may come a time in the future when the legislature will decide that it's something that needs to be indexed. But we did this because at this point we have, well, when we passed the Improve Act, there were 1,500 EVs in Tennessee. Now there's 16,000. So this was a good time to, as you say, make the hard decisions, and it was decided to index that registration fee. So,
Leader Camper.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Chairman, could we talk a little bit about the choice lanes?
sure.
And could you explain for the record how this would work? I've consulted with someone who have these lanes in their area, like in Atlanta and Dallas, like you mentioned before. How would the rate work for high traffic time?
Mhm.
You know, you go in, it may be $3, I guess, and it could go up to $5 or $6 or $7. Could you explain for the record how that would work?
Chairman Howell.
Thank you. Yes, these are, as you said, choice lanes. People have a choice. We're not reducing the number of general purpose lanes. We're adding choice lanes to what we already have. And the statistics show that between 30 and 40% of the drivers choose to use the choice lanes and pay the fee. So what that impact does is reduce the traffic on the general purpose lane, so everybody benefits. But these are not just choice lanes, but they're also managed lanes, much like airlines manage their airplane tickets. If they have a full plane and they have 2 seats left, you'll notice that the ticket goes up. We haven't done it yet, but the way I've seen other states do it is when traffic gets heavy, they increase the fee in order to reduce the traffic, in order to guarantee a rate of speed, say 55, 60 miles an hour on that stretch of roadway. Because many states do guarantee a speed. The only way they can do that is by managing the fee that they pay to keep other traffic on the general purpose lanes. And those fees are posted. Before you enter that lane, you look up and you know exactly what you're going to pay when you get in there.
Leader Camper.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Chairman, this is a major, momentous initiative that we're taking right now.
Yes.
And I know in West Tennessee, with Blue Oval City coming, that we need to be thinking about, you know, how are we going to move all of this traffic in and out of West Tennessee, and from O'Brien and Lake County all the way down to, you know, and from Shelby County, from the river all the way to, you know, exit 42. And so it's my belief that, and we could hear from the commissioner if this is true, that there would be some type of comprehensive study where we can look at, you know, how do we prepare for what's coming and how this would impact what's coming, and you know, how do we see all of this playing out? Because we have an opportunity before us right now to do this with this bill, and looking forward to Blue Oval City. Can you talk to, have you had any conversations about how this would affect what we're about to do with Blue Oval City, the growth in some of the counties, roads there, Shelby County?
Chairman Howell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, with respect to Blue Oval, if I recall, when we passed the bill for the Blue Oval, I believe there was $200 million allocated for TDOT to oversee the infrastructure into the Blue Oval City. So that amount is already set aside, $200 million. As traffic congestion grows with the passage of this bill, as traffic congestion grows, TDOT then will have the ability to look at those areas to see if it would sustain a choice lane. And if it does, then they'd have the ability to enter into a contract to build a choice lane, just like they would in Nashville or Knoxville or Chattanooga.
Leader Camper.
One last question, Madam Chair. Another concern that I have is that in this bill and this opportunity, we have not addressed light rail in any major way. And there's concern that with these choice lanes and the easement that it's going to take up, it could affect our ability in the future to, in fact, have light rail. And so, particularly if you think about Middle Tennessee and the growth we have here, and I imagine, we've thought about this, but do you have any insights on light rail and what this could do with, eating up the easements to put in these choice lanes?
Chairman Howell.
Thank you, and thank you for the question. As you probably are aware, Amtrak has been advocating for their rail service through Nashville, Chattanooga, on down to Atlanta, the various areas. There has been a lot of conversation from a certain stakeholder group advocating for choice rail. TDOT does have a rail division, and I'm sure that they are looking at those possibilities. The thing that I like about this bill, when we put the proposal in here for TDOT to investigate P3s. P3 investment comes in and spends, let's say, $1 billion to build a choice lane from Murfreesboro to Nashville. Typically, those roadways, or those contracts could be negotiated as an 80-20 split. So TDOT is able to get $1 billion road for $200 million. That's a bargain. And what that does then is free up the rest of TDOT's funds that they have in their actual budget from the gas tax to address other areas. I would suspect that moving forward, as we continue to grow as a state, I read somewhere recently that within a matter of just a few short years, we're going to be the 16th largest state in the country. We will have to continue to address all manner of means to move people from one point to the other. I would hope that light rail would be a part of that, but this would hopefully free up some of TDOT's funds to look at those opportunities.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Leader Camper.
I know I said one last one, but he mentioned the TDOT and having the ability to do this. So when these contracts are entered into, they don't have to come. Do they have to come back before the General Assembly for approval,
Oh, yes.
or is that left up? We've given autonomy to TDOT to in fact do that.
Chairman Howell.
Yes, if you look in page 12, annual report to the General Assembly, 54-2-202, prior to January 1st, 2004, and prior to each January thereafter. The Department of Transportation shall submit a report to the speakers of the Senate, House of Representatives, Chair of the Transportation and Safety Committee in the Senate, and the Chair of the Transportation Committee of the House on the status of projects funded by the Transportation Modernization Fund. That's the TMF that we're talking about. So this body still has oversight. They're reporting to us, and it goes on in depth. It's quite lengthy. I don't want to bore you, but we do have a lot of oversight and reporting in this bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair.
Further questions? Chairman Williams.
I don't have a question, Chair Lady, but thank you for the opportunity. Chairman Howell, thank you for this. I do think one of the things we haven't really talked about a whole lot as it relates to this in subcommittee or in this committee, as you know, I'm in the construction business, and the delivery method makes a huge impact as it relates to how these monies are spent. the implementation of a design build methodology, which in my line of work can sometimes improve the overall delivery of a project by as much as 60%, is dramatic when it comes to finding the relief that $3 billion can give to our communities across the state. So I think it's a really important part of how we do it. Of course, we're putting a lot of trust in our engineering staff and our commissioner as it relates to that. But I do think you can have all the money in the world, but if you can't deploy it, currently we spend about 12, take about 12 years to deliver a road in the state of Tennessee. And quite frankly, it's my hope that by putting this additional money in this formulary so that we can do it in a different contract way, that we'll be able to relieve our communities from a lot of the stress we see on the interstates and highways today across the state. So I think it's important that we draw attention to that. It is something that we have done in the past, but not a lot of. And so I look forward to seeing how we can get these monies into our communities a lot quicker. Thank you.
Thank you.
Further questions? I do think, Chairman, I'd like to add my gratitude, as mentioned before, for the work that you have done in your committee, Chairman Whitson and others who have been involved in this on a long-term basis. And I think from the discussion here, we can all recognize that this isn't the end-all solution. There are many issues that we will have to continue to address. One of the things we have now, we're going to be getting revenues from electric vehicles that drive on our roads, but only if they're registered in Tennessee.
Yes.
We haven't figured out a way yet to capture revenue from those people from other states who will be using our roadways. So I think, as always, there'll be other opportunities for future legislators and future commissioners to address. But this is going to make a huge difference in Tennessee. I'm just looking forward to the day that I can get from my house on Signal Mountain to the Cordell Hull building without being blocked at Moccasin Bend or I-59 or any of the other places that are normal roadblocks. So a choice lane from Signal Mountain to, Nashville, I'm all about it. But with no further questions and no further discussion, we are voting on House Bill 321, which truly is a momentous step forward for the state. And members, if you are in favor of House Bill 321 moving to calendar and rules, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Chairman Howell, you are moving on to calendar and rules.
Thank you,
And
Madam
Commissioner
Chair.
Ely, we thank you for
Thank you.
being here and being willing to step up. But Chairman Howell did a great presentation and gave you just a minute of quiet rest. So, but thank you and your team for being here. Item number 7 on our calendar is next. That's House Bill 115 by Chairman Moody. We have a motion and a second. Chairman Moody, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair Lady and committee. And this is another momentous piece of legislation in the fight against human trafficking.
We only deal with momentous legislation in finance.
Yes, ma'am. And I'm proud to be here. But this does come from the Secretary of State's office, and it would set up the Tennessee Business Against Trafficking program. This program is voluntary. It is open to businesses and corporations that would agree to participate in periodic training, education, and public awareness campaigns to help identify and stop human trafficking. And, it's a huge problem, and Tennessee's leading the way in the country in this fight. But this will just be another way to get more people with eyes on things and to know what to do when they see it.
Thank you for that explanation. Are there questions of the sponsor? Question has been called. Without objection, we are voting on House Bill 115. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. House Bill 115 moves on to calendar and rules.
Thank you so
Chairman
much.
Moody.
Thank you.
Item number 8 on our calendar is House Bill 678 by Chairman Powers. Chairman Powers, we have a motion and a second, and you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I'm sorry if we woke you.
No, I was just working on another project. I put people to sleep in my last committee. Oh, so do we have a motion in a second?
You
We ready
did.
to roll? Okay.
Say you were asleep for that part.
House Bill 678 would make Tennessee Virtual Education Act permanent. These are public schools. They are in the virtual schools by choice. The Virtual School Act was created in 2013 when there were very few of them. Currently, the statute must be extended every 3 years. And since the repeal was last extended in 2019, Tennessee has increased the number of virtual schools by over 40%. After 10 years, we know that virtual education is here to stay because of continued growth and stability. And with that, Madam Chair, I renew my motion.
You've heard from the sponsor. Just what sort of accountability do we have with these schools, Chairman Powers?
Just the same accountability that we have in regular public schools. They go through the same process that every public school does as far as testing and accountability by the Department of Education.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, we're voting on House Bill 678. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. House Bill 678 moves on to calendar and rules.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Committee.
Item number 9, House Bill 335 by Representative Balzo. We have a motion and a second. Representative Balzo, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This bill involves Title VI of our Tennessee Code concerning cities and towns. It does just one thing. It takes a 90-day time period in 6-20-110 that's mandatory and makes it optional. Under current law, if there is a vacancy that arises in one of our city commissions and our 49 city commission forms of government across the state, and the city commission is not able to fill the seat by a vote, the commission has to wait 90 days before notifying the county election commission of the vacancy so that an election can be scheduled. This bill, if enacted, will make that 90-day period optional so that the city commission may notify the election commission within the 90-day period. That adds efficiency to the system because it allows a special election for a city commissioner to be combined with an already scheduled general election. With that, Madam Chair, I stand ready to address any questions.
Are there questions for the sponsor? Question has been called. Without objection, we're voting on House Bill 335. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. And Representative Boltho, you're off to calendar and rules. Next on our calendar is HJR 120 by Representative Darby. We have a motion and a second. And before we get started, congratulations on a fine win last night with the Lady Vols.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Representative Darby, you have a motion and a second, so you are recognized on HJR 120.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Committee. I hate being in front of you all today. This is a HJR that honors the memories of 2 young men that lost their lives tragically on Reelfoot Lake. And both of these young men were aspiring to be police officers.
You've heard the sponsor's explanation. And while there is a sad reason for this, I think it's well and fitting that we should honor them in this way. So without objection, we are voting on HJR 120. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. HJR 120 moves on to calendar and rules.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Committee.
House Bill 92, Chairman Gillespie, Representative Gillespie, gave you permission there. We have a motion and a second. Please describe your bill for us.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, for getting to me and committee. This is a pretty straightforward bill. It's expanding our move over law in Tennessee. If there's a stopped vehicle on the side of the road, if safe so to move over, you're required to move over. And if you don't, you are charged a fine. This is simply increasing each of those levels of fines, roughly double, and adding about $190,000 to the state's coffers yearly. And with that, I welcome any questions.
Representative Shaw, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one question. Thank you for bringing the legislation, but in the case where you can't get over, does that change anything in the law?
Representative Gillespie.
Thank you. No, it specifically states when safe to do so. And I would imagine if there's not some sort of accident as a result of that, it's your word is going to be just that. So.
Representative Shaw.
Just in my experiences traveling, sometimes you caught in a situation where you just can't get over. You can slow down, but you can't get over. And I just, I'd want to make sure it was fair that a person did everything they could to get over. But if they could not get over, I guess my question would be to you, would they be charged any fine?
Representative Shaw, I think legal is prepared to answer that question. If there's no objection, we'll go out of session. We're out of session, and Mr. Hayes, if you will address the issue.
Joel Hayes, Office of Legal Services. Representative Shaw, the current statute for moving over, if you're, it states that if you're unable to do so, proceeding with due caution, reduce the speed of the vehicle, maintaining a safe speed for road conditions if changing lanes would be impossible or unsafe.
Any other questions for legal while we're out of session? Seeing none, we're back in session. Are there further questions of the sponsor? Chairman Williams.
Thank you, Chair Lady. Representative Gillespie, I just had a question about this. I noticed I'm a little bit concerned about the increasing the fine so much for a current offense that's already out there, particularly when we already have a provision that says that if for some acceptable reason they don't get over. If I'm correct, I just wondered, is there any other area in code where for a third offense, we go from $1,000 to $2,500? I'm just wondering where these numbers came from as it relates to the cost, because I guess if it were a first offense, it seems like it's pretty reasonable increase, but then after that, it goes up quite dramatically. And I just wondered if you could share to me what your thoughts were. Is there any reasoning or is there any study out there that says by increasing the fine by this amount that you're going to reduce the number of violators? Because I think we want to protect not just law enforcement, but work crews, because we're fixing to spend $3.3 billion on roads. But I'm a little bit concerned about the amount that's on here. If you could help me get more comfortable with that, I'd appreciate it.
Representative Gillespie.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, so just to start off, in the Memphis area, just in the last year, we've had a TDOT employee, 2 firefighters, a police officer, and an MLGW worker, all killed in the line of duty, directly resulting of people failing to move over. And it was proven that they could have, they just chose not to for whatever reason. So I say that to say that I wanted to make a statement. I wanted to get people's attention. And I'm actively working with Commissioner Ely and other parties to take some of those proceeds at a later time and help with PSAs or to get the communication out there that this is the law and we do expect you to move over when safe to do so. So really that third offense, I mean, you've already done this twice. Now you failed to move over a third time. I really just wanted to get people's attention and so that they would know, as a matter of fact, that we are serious about protecting these people, and that was the reason why it doubled or almost tripled on that third offense.
Chairman Williams.
Thank you, Chair Lady. I guess my concern is prior to this bill being before me, I was unaware that there was $1,000 fine for currently $1,000 fine for a third offense. I think that most Tennessee drivers are going to be surprised to know any of these rates, regardless of whether they're the current rates or the other rates. I was pretty I was pretty well educated on the first offense because my assumption is that you probably would never do this again. But I have a little bit of concern about it. Just wanted to share it with you and try to get a better idea as to how we got to these numbers. Thank you.
And legal does have some perspective on that we can share. So without objection, we're out of session. And Mr. Hayes?
Chairman Williams, so currently the third or subsequent offense of the section is a Class A misdemeanor, and it states that it's punishable by a fine of not less than $1,000. The standard fine for a Class A misdemeanor is up to $2,500, and also 11 months or 29 days imprisonment. This is only appears to be fine only, but it's raising it essentially to the standard Class A misdemeanor fine rather than the $1,000 fine.
Questions?
And just for additional information, the first and second violations are Class B misdemeanors, which is ordinarily a $500 fine.
Chairman Williams?
Thank you for legal. Does that mean if someone refused to pay the fine that they would do 1129?
Mr. Hayes?
Ordinarily, with something like that, no, that would be something that would be assessed upon the conviction. If someone fails to pay a fine, it would go to essentially a judgment and collection.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions for legal? Seeing none, we're back in session. Are there further questions for the sponsor? Without objection, we are voting on House Bill 92. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. If you'd like to be recorded as a no, please see the clerk.
Thank you so much.
Next is House Bill 690. Representative Martin. We have a motion and a second. Representative Martin, you even have a third, so obviously we're very anxious to
Ready
hear
to
from
go, yes,
you. Please tell us about your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Committee. This bill is in response to a request from the Board of Examiners of Psychology. Currently in Tennessee, there's two parts of this bill. Currently in Tennessee, 1,900 hours are needed for the internships. This would allow a little less than those if the board deemed necessary for new providers coming into the state. The second part of this bill would allow those that have been practicing 10 years out of the last 15 in another state to be able to come into Tennessee if their requirements are the same that we have here in Tennessee, meeting the same requirements with the doctoral program, et cetera. This will help address some of our mental health component and get providers into Tennessee that are trained and experienced. With that, I stand ready for questions.
Are there questions for the sponsor? I think we all are aware of the mental health issues in our state and others as well. So having more providers to help with that, with those issues is obviously a good thing. So without any questions or objection, we are voting on House Bill 690. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you, Madam Chair and
We
Committee.
move on to calendar and rules. Representative Stevens is next on our calendar with House Bill 1089. Representative Stevens, you have a motion and a second. You're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and Committee. House Bill 1089 is a way to help a small community in my district that had some confusion last year and missed the deadline to get their wine and grocery stores referendum in the 2024 election. And so this bill adds a clause to the current law, and it will let them have their referendum in 2024 instead of having to wait until 2026.
Heard the sponsor's explanation. Are there questions? Seeing none, we're voting on House Bill 1089. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? No. Ayes have it. If you'd like to be recorded as a no, please let the clerk know that you're a no. Item 14 is House Bill 99, also by Representative Stevens. You have a motion? You have a motion and a second. Representative Stevens, you're recognized on House Bill 99.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and Committee. Each county is required by law to have a records commission, and the makeup of that is designated in the state law that sets them up. Individuals who serve on this committee that are not salaried government employees can be paid a stipend of up to $25 per day, and that, I believe, was set in 1959. And so this would increase what they can pay up to 150. It's a permissive thing, and each county would decide what amount they want to pay up to 150.
Right. I see no questions. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? House Bill 99 goes to calendar and rules. Thank you, Representative Stevens.
Thank you.
House Bill 103 by Representative Parkinson is next. We have a motion and a second. Representative Parkinson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady, and thank you, committee. Lashing is a billion-dollar business. The lash extension market size was valued at $1.36 billion in 2020. It is projected to reach $2.31 billion by 2028. Students who want to focus on lashes only have to either go through a full cosmetology school for 1,500 hours at a cost of $15,000 to $40,000 per student, or an esthetician school for a minimum of 750 hours at a cost of $13,400, plus an additional $3,000 for books and supplies, along with other fees. In order to do lashes professionally today, one must be a licensed cosmetologist or a licensed skin professional, such as an esthetician. What this bill does is it creates freestanding schools for those that want to focus on lashing only. It also creates apprenticeship opportunities with it also. This bill is a pro-business bill that streamlines the process of becoming an eyelash technician in the state of Tennessee. It puts Tennesseans to work faster. It works hand in glove with the Drive to 55. It increases the number of licensed professionals in our state. It creates new businesses that will also produce new business owners and industry professionals. In 2013, we passed a similar bill with the same model for natural hair, and it has grown the industry by over 500%. No pun intended. The mechanics of this bill, it allows for freestanding schools for lash technicians. Students will go to school for 300 hours to become a licensed lash technician. It allows for apprenticeship programs where students will go to school for half the required hours and work in a licensed salon for the other. And the tuition fee is exponentially lower than it would be if you went to a cosmetology school or an esthetician school. And this bill is modeled after the Texas law for lash technicians. With that, Madam Chair, open for any questions.
Chairman Hawk, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Parkinson, could you take your glasses off? Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you very much.
I have no words. You've heard the sponsor's very detailed explanation. Are there questions? Seeing none, we're voting on House Bill 103. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. If you'd like to be recorded as a no, please see the clerk.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, committee.
Item, I'm sorry, moves to calendar and rules. Number 16 on our calendar is House Bill 1079. Representative Shaw, in consultation with the chairman, has agreed to take this bill off notice while we work on an amendment that I believe will improve it. So we will make sure to do that over the next week or two and bring this bill back before us. Item number 17, House Bill 818 by Chairman Whitson. We have a motion and a second. Chairman Whitson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and committee. This bill, House Bill 818, in 2019, the General Assembly passed legislation attempting to reduce the number of people illegally passing school bus stop arms by allowing schools to install cameras on the outside of buses. Since the original passage of this legislation, sadly, we had better understanding how many people are actually running these stop signs and risking the safety of our children. Districts are reporting over 100 violations a year and several reports of children being struck and seriously injured. Over the last several years, we have learned about some enforcement challenges due to the lack of clarity within the statute. This bill provides that clarity and incorporates lessons learned from other states to help us better understand these violators. This bill will do two main things. It cleans up procedural and technical aspects of the school bus stop sign violation statute to provide clarity for enforcement, and makes the fine for first-time violators consistent throughout the statute and sets the penalty for those who repeat the offense. It also establishes the penalty for those violators who run the stop sign, hit a child, resulting in injury or death. With that, I renew my motion.
Are there questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, we'll be voting on House Bill 818. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. House Bill 818 moves on to calendar and rules.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and
Whitson.
committee.
The last item on our calendar, House Bill 327 by Chairman Zachary. Chairman Zachary, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
We have a motion and a second. You are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, this simply allows an appropriation to the Office of Faith-Based Initiatives. With that, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
And Chairman, there is a drafting, an amendment on this, drafting code 005109. Is that,
Yes, ma'am.
we have a motion. Do you have a second? We have a motion and a second on the amendment. We're voting on adding drafting code 005109 to the bill. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. If Chairman Williams, if you'd just like us to list you as a no on
All the
the amendment is on the bill. Chairman Zachary, please describe the bill as amended.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This simply allows an appropriation to the Office of Faith-Based Initiatives. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Are there questions? Representative McKenzie.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As I said earlier in the meeting, I was not here in 2017 or 18 when this first came, but I distinctly remember them kind of championing the fact that this office would not take any state funds and that it will be solely funded by the faith-based community. What changed?
Chairman Zachary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So currently in Tennessee, this is the only Office of Faith-Based Initiatives that is not funded by the state. President Biden established the Office of Faith-Based Initiatives in February of 2021 that is funded nationally. We're simply following that model to allow the office to move away from just being a fundraising apparatus to engage more with the faith-based community to allow the continued work with DCS, corrections, and the other aspects of state government.
Representative McKenzie.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm pretty sure, I think I heard you saying, and correctly so, that following of this national Democratic lead and the process in Washington is a positive model to have. So thank you. Thank you for bringing this bill.
Chairman Zachary.
Actually, thank you, Representative McKenzie, but that's not what I said. Thank you. I was simply using that for my colleagues on the other side of the aisle to let them know this is not strictly a Republican initiative, that our president, who you rightly point out is a Democrat, has also done this. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, we are voting on this bipartisan bill, House Bill 327. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it, and Madam Clerk, just mark down Chairman Williams as no from item 12 or so on. And House Bill 327 goes on to calendar and rules, where I'm sure it will get a favorable hearing from that chairman. All right, that does complete our calendar for today. We have 5 expansions requests. And first up, we were going to take it the Department of Human Services. So we will ask those folks to come forward. Not confusing. good afternoon. Thank you for patiently waiting through our calendar, and we will just ask you to introduce yourselves and present the expansion request for our consideration.
Good afternoon, Chair Lady and committee. My name is Callan Schmid, and I am the Assistant Commissioner for Department of Human Services, and I brought friends with me who are much more knowledgeable.
And may I interrupt you? I just was reminded by legal, I did not officially take us out of session, so I need to do that. We are out of session, and I beg your pardon. If you would go ahead and introduce your team.
I brought my friends from the Department of Health as this program works. We work very closely with the Department of Health on this, and I'll let them introduce themselves.
Thank you, Chair Lady. My name is Olivia Spears. I'm the Assistant Commissioner of Legislative Affairs for the Tennessee Department of Health, and I have John Webb with me at the table. He is the Deputy Commissioner of Operations for the Department of Health, and I will pass it on to him.
Madam Chair, the expansions before you, the one for DHS is kind of the revenue side of this equation, while the expansion with the Department of Health is the expense side of that. The Department of Health will be receiving $25 million from DHS from TANF funding. This funding will go towards supporting the work done in our evidence-based home visiting programs. The General Assembly approved a similar expansion 2 years ago in the amount of $14 million to help us expand our program from 50 counties to statewide. The Department of Health will take this TANF money and really implement it in 3 different ways. The first way would be to address counties that are experiencing capacity or maximum capacity with their evidence-based home visiting programs. After that, those needs are addressed, we will move on to help improve the infrastructure for the remainder counties where these programs are. Our second option that we'll use the money for is to enhance our referral services centrally. And then finally, we hope to provide increased and improved technical assistance with this grant.
Anything to add?
No, ma'am.
All right, we do have some questioners on the list. Chairman Hawk, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I love conversations about TANF. I appreciate that. Give me a little bit of an idea of the timing of this and maybe a little more depth of conversation. I see that, is this request dated September 26th of 22? If we can talk about the funding request, when this was discussed, and a little more breadth of discussion on how these dollars will be utilized.
Sure, Chairman Hawk. We worked with the Department of Human Services. I guess they had an amount that they needed to allocate, and that 25 million came to us. This happened after we submitted our budget request to FNA, and so that process was already underway, and so we opted to take the expansion route. In previous years, we've already had this funding source established, but given the amount and the sensitivity of the funding source, we thought the best action would be to come before the General Assembly and seek approval. As far as spending, we're primarily using it for our evidence-based home visiting programs. And if you'll recall, those programs really are contracted out. We have 18 providers that do statewide services. These are services that help link at-risk families to social services or community-based organizations. They provide education to new parents to help them deal with the stress of having a new family. And we also do a lot of early intervention for learning for children with the ultimate goal to avoid adverse childhood experiences.
Chairman Cochran.
Thank you, Chair Lady. So wanted to ask just a couple quick questions about the EBHV program. And so could you give us an overview of that and the services that it provides to Tennesseans? So maybe let's start there, and then I've got a quick follow-up, if that's okay.
Sure, Chairman Cochran. This is a statewide program. It's in all 95 counties. We contract with several different organizations to provide services in each one of these counties. They provide services to assist parents, new parents primarily in dealing with the stresses of a new family. They help at-risk families get linked up with the proper and appropriate social services to give them additional assistance. We do a lot of work towards improving opportunities for youth and adolescents in terms of learning, trying to help create an environment where they succeed. And then, of course, as we kind of briefly discussed about trying to avoid adverse childhood experiences being our ultimate goal.
And just one follow-up, Madam Chair.
Chairman Leader Cochran.
So in fiscal year 2021, so the department presented an expansion request for $14 million in recurring TANF funding for the program that you just went over. So 900,000 of that expansion was to fund 5 positions. Have those been filled? And then will any of this expansion funding go towards salaries for those positions? If you could answer those.
Sure, good question. The 5 positions, I'll have to check. I don't know off the top of my head if those 5 from the previous expansion have been filled. I assume that they have, but I will be happy to follow up with the committee on that. In this current expansion, about $1 million is going towards personnel and staffing costs. 135,000 of that is going to kind of reclass some of our existing positions to help meet the needs of the department, while the rest we are using contract employees to address our staffing concerns.
Chairman Williams.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Just as a follow-up to that, the $135,000 that's not been allocated to any position, I think just to reiterate what you said, you're saying that hasn't been allocated because you want to repurpose those dollars to a different classification or a different person, or you're wanting to contract those dollars to an outside third party?
Sure, good question. Let me just try to clarify a little bit. That 135 will go towards existing positions. They're at a certain level now. We'd like to reclassify them up because they're going to be taking on more responsibilities, and then the remaining 900,000 will be contract employees.
Okay. One more.
Chairman Williams.
Thank you, Chair Lady. Of that, I think it was in big fan of Evidence Home Base, home visiting, Stevens Center, Livingston, right outside of my district. It's been a phenomenal opportunity for us to get to help kids that wouldn't normally get an opportunity to see the kinds of services or even what parenting is modeled like in their communities because they didn't have any parents. It's a great program. Love it. But in 2021, I think we allocated $14 million for these programs. Had a little bit of difficulty distributing the monies, if I remember. And so do you foresee any problem going forward with $25 million that we'll have some of the same issues? What's different now than then? Obviously, we want to make sure that we're impacting our local communities through this evidence-based home visits. So if you could speak to that, it'd be great.
Yeah, the original 14 million, it took us about a year to get going, honestly. Part of the problem was that, we were already in 50 counties, which means there were 45 that didn't have programs. And that was part of our issue, was getting ramped up to provide services in all 95 counties. This is a significant amount of money. I'll be straight up with you. It'll take us a little time to get all 25 million programmed. Our goal, though, is to target counties right now that are at 90% capacity. Those are Shelby County and Sullivan County. Those are the two that we know that are bursting at the seams, where we need more slots to help qualified families. Once we tackle that piece, then we can work on building the infrastructure everywhere else, and that'll help provide more slots for everybody across the state.
And just a follow up to that.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you be working those in parallel rather than in a linear fashion? You don't have to wait till Shelby and Sullivan are taken care of to start programming in the other counties, correct?
Yes, ma'am. We can run the grants parallel. Is just, the way we kind of presented the expansion, the way we wanted to target the money. We wanted to make sure the high capacity grants were taken care of early on, but we will make it a priority for everybody.
All right. Next on my list is Chairman Boyd.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady, and you've actually answered a couple of my questions here with the Shelby and Sullivan, indicating those are the counties that are at the 90% level. And so the question I would have is, how many families are currently served through the evidence-based home visiting, and how many do you think you guys will rope in through this expansion?
Sure. In fiscal year 2022, we were able to assist 2,900 families. With this new allocation of funding, we think we can add up to 3,500 more families. And so we will be more than doubling the program by projection.
Chairman Boyd.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. And how do y'all promote the availability of this program?
We do a lot of different things. We do a lot of stuff within the department to promote this. We accept referrals. We make referrals to local organizations to do to enroll families in the program. We also, work with providers, healthcare providers, social service agencies, other, sister departments, all sorts of different organizations that touch families that may be at risk. So we do a lot of promotion. I'd be hesitant to say that we have a campaign, but we work with all the organizations that make efforts within that circle of qualified families.
Chairman Baum.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In your expansion request, you mentioned mental health service delivery needs. Can you tell us a little bit more about what those needs are and how the workforce training will address them?
Sure. Part of what we do is when there's a lot of stress involved in new families, and we've kind of had this kind of a little discussion about how there are a lot of folks that don't know what parenting looks like or what good parenting looks like. And when you don't know those skills, you have those issues in terms of stress. A lot of the families that we come in contact with have other additional issues. And so what we try to link those families to and those individuals to are social services or community organizations that can assist them in overcoming those issues with mental health. As far as workforce development and training, I think we'd all agree that it gives you a great sense of pride if you're out working, and that makes it a lot easier at home if people have steady income and they take a sense of pride in that. So, obviously that's one thing that we like to promote, and that is one of the indicators for social determinants of health, which will help lead to healthy outcomes on down the road.
Chairman Baum.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you for that. Last question, you mentioned gaps in maternity care. Could you give us a little more information on that?
Sure, and I think a lot of that will be addressed in our next expansion when we talk more about gaps in maternity care. For this particular program, we really are reaching into seeing what the overall needs of the family are, and in some cases there may be issues where we need to address maternal health issues, but this program primarily focuses on some of the items that we mentioned earlier, and we have other avenues to assist in maternal care.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Barrett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon. In this same program, there's about $750,000 non-recurring in fiscal year 22-23, and about a third of that, I think, is for creating 3 positions. So my question is, what happens to those 3 positions when that federal funding is no longer available?
Yes, sir. Thank you for the question. I think really when we're looking at that 750, it's dealing with our maternity and mortality expansion. Good question though. The 750 would just be the 1-year cost, and we're looking at $1 million in the out year. So the way it shows up on the expansion request, it shows as 750, but we do have out year funding to support those 3 positions from the same federal source.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Chairman Moon.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. Of the funding in fiscal year 22-23, 450,000 is going toward third-party professional services. Provide an overview of how those contracts will be utilized, please, sir.
Yes, sir. The third-party sources that we would work with, let me think. We have a task force that's part of our maternity and mortality review program, and that task force is comprised of approximately 60 different organizations. And that ranges from hospitals to local health departments to community organizations. And a lot of the work that they do is related to improving maternal and health outcomes. So part of that will be enrolling more of those folks in something called the AIM program, which is really a training and protocol packet for improving maternal health outcomes at birthing centers or other healthcare facilities. And eventually, we're also going to use some of that money to help provide a strategic plan needs assessment of maternal care within the state, and then use some of that funding as follow-up for grants to implement those recommendations. Historically, this program's used about, has done grants in the amount of about $20,000 to individual organizations. But, once we get the expansion approved, we'll kind of develop the RFA process after that.
Chairman Moon, I've just done a little quick math up here, and we're adding $25 million. It's the initial expansion that we were discussing. Then we also talked about the second one, the 750. But if we're saying we're adding about 3,500 families, that's what we hope to serve with this $35 million. That's about $7,000 per family. Help me understand exactly what the family is getting for that $7,000.
Sure. I might start, just for my sake, on how we come to that number. There's a variety of models that are out there that people can choose as evidence-based delivery of services. One of the more familiar ones is Healthy Start. And that charge, and the costs around that are a little over $5,000. And then there's another one, I think our program folks call McV, which is a maternal infant child health visitation. And that is about a little over $8,000 per family. So what those costs go to are to support first the personnel that's involved at the local organization level. So that'd be part of the cost that's built into the cost per family.
And
then it would
that's in
be-
addition to the personnel cost at the state level.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct. And so the third-party organizations would have some personal costs built into that. And then we would also, it would be the service delivery that we described earlier for each one of those programs, whether it be interventions for children on promoting learning or, parental classes, that sort of thing. And that would be an annual cost, of course.
Right. Thank you. It's a bit concerning that so much of this $25 million seems to be eaten up in personnel cost, and the amount in direct services received by the families. Of course, those personnel are providing that. I do understand, but if there's any way to make that process more efficient, I'm certainly that this committee would be happy to entertain ideas on how to do that. I don't have any further questions, and without objection, we will approve this expansion. All in favor, please say aye. So we've done that, and for those of you from the other departments that have expansion hearings today, I regret to inform you that we were overly ambitious. We have to leave this room at 4:30, and we have a number of members on our committee who've had to leave for other commitments. So we will have to ask you back at another date. We will get with you on the timing, and I do apologize for wasting your afternoon, but I'm sure you've been thoroughly entertained. All right. Again, I apologize for our lengthy calendar today, but we had a lot of business to attend to. We got a lot done. I thank you for those of you who have remained with us. And without objection, we're back in session. And without objection, we are adjourned.